What the frick?
Wow, that was genuinely concerning. I was not a fan of that one. Hello. Welcome to today's episode of Juice and the Numbers, your statistics and sports podcast. I am one of the hosts, Joshua Tracy.
And I'm Corwin Heller. I just kind of live here.
Yeah. He's the guy that just happens to be in the Discord server when we start these recordings.
Yeah, it's funny. I am always here, and Josh just kind of comes on to talk sometimes, and I don't really know what we talk about, but I'm here.
And that's the minimum qualifications required to be a part of this show. So yeah, let's talk some sports then, buddy, since we're both here at the same time. I guess let's start with lesser topics. NHL currently going to Game 6 on Monday after the Stars' double OT winner last night. Have you watched any games from the finals?
No. I have not watched a hockey game since the Pens got knocked out.
Oh, a true fan.
Right. It's just how it be.
Great game last night, I have to say. I did stay up for the entirety of it, and I slept so late today as a direct consequence of that. But man, that's fun. I am still rooting passively for the Lightning, aka Rangers South, but I really can't be that mad. The only reason I'll be mad if the Stars win is because that then means that Corey Perry wins, and fuck that guy. So
yeah, for real, honestly, fuck Corey Perry.
And if you are listening to this podcast and don't watch hockey, all you really need to know about Corey Perry is fuck Corey Perry, and that'll get you pretty far.
Yeah.
So anyway, game 6 should be taking place on Monday. So maybe we'll talk about if there's any result from there on the Thursday edition. As of right now, it is Sunday, September 27th, 10:30 in the morning. So there's no football games to talk about yet. Lightning currently lead the Stars 3-2 in the series. That brings us over to the NBA, where the Lakers just boo-hoo-hoo-hooty blasted the Nuggets last night to win the series 4-1, advance to the finals, and are awaiting the result of the Miami Celtics game. I hate saying that. As the Heat currently lead that series 3-2, looking for a potential all LeBron rematch or all LeBron former team NBA Finals, Lakers Heat. Have you been watching any basketball?
I basically stayed up till like 2 a.m. last night, just rewatching all of the different highlights from the game last night. Because, the listeners who have listened to us talk about basketball in any capacity before know that we do not watch basketball. We don't know what we're talking about most of the time when it comes to on the field kind of strategy or game planning, team construction, whatever. But oh my God, I wanted to talk about this just so that we can talk about how good LeBron James is, because he took over that game in, a series where he was playing with, some of the top players in the NBA, some absolute, slugfest. LeBron's 35 years old in year 17, and he basically was just dad dicking the rest of the players on the court, and it was unbelievable to watch. At one point with 3 minutes left in the game, he went on, himself scored 9 straight points to put the Nuggets away. And it wasn't exactly, easy shots, open looks. He will not be stopped when he's in this playoff, focused mindset. And I don't know how to compare him to anybody else. It's just incredible. And, we should seriously appreciate the kind of appreciation we should have for, being able to watch this player, not even in his prime, but, building on his legacy. And it's incredible.
Yeah, I find LeBron James to be one of the most fascinating sports personalities to discuss, for like every single reason that you would possibly consider to talk about an athlete. Let me start with this question: what is more astonishing, that LeBron James is going to have gone to 10 NBA finals, or that means that he has missed 7 of them?
It's that he's gone to 10 of them now, and he's missed like 1 in the past 9 years, which
I
is
think
just
no,
insane.
I think it's like straight. Has he? Oh, well,
No,
he
his
missed one because the Lakers were he was hurting the
they missed
Lakers.
the playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Forgot about that.
I mean, that being said, like it's still incredible, and it's still at a point where it is nutty how good he is at building this team and or not. What am I trying to say? At always bringing the rest of his team up to the level where it is hard to go to a NBA championship. He was talking about it after the game last night. It's 30 guys every year that have a chance to go to the finals, and LeBron just happens to always be one of those 30 guys. And I think it's absolutely insane how he's done it. And he's played on some dog shit teams in the past. Don't get me wrong. Those early
Cleveland.
those early Cleveland teams were unbearable. His first year on the Lakers, that wasn't exactly the best team, but man, it's just so impressive going to 10 straight finals. Or not 10 straight, but 10 finals.
10, yeah, I know what you mean. That that inherently also means that LeBron James will have been a player in 13.5% of all NBA finals in history, which is also stupid.
Oh, absolutely.
Real quick aside, and I mean stupid in a good way, right, not like he's wrong for having been this fucking good. LeBron James has led the NBA in shockingly few things throughout his career, which I'm not saying it matters at all. Just I'm surprised about, because he is like, I mean, 1A or 1B depending on who you want to argue for the greatest of all time. But he has only led NBA in minutes played per game 3 times. He's led in assists per game once. That was actually this season. And then he led in points per game once in 2007, 2008. And then that's it, which is, I don't know. Maybe I'm just used to baseball where, like, every like really good player will have one weird season where they lead in like 3 things. And it's just not the same in basketball. But it is odd to look at.
Like the thing that makes LeBron great, is his ability to do and excel at just about everything.
Yeah.
God, you got to remember, like, there are an insane amount of uberly talented NBA players, and the it's not like MLB where you can lead all players in pitching stats and hitting stats. You can lead the AL, you could lead the NL, and those things still do come up on baseball reference and whatnot. The NBA, I don't know if NBA or basketball reference breaks it down to East and West Conference, but I don't think it does. So that
I don't think it does either.
To do with it. But still, like, if you look at his total numbers, he probably should have like 5 or 6 MVP trophies. He's earned 5 or 6, but it comes down to the fact that, he's won so many, this guy's up and coming, LeBron, he'll win another one, we'll give it to this guy this year. And we can discuss, the fairness of that. I almost said fairity, and I'm so glad I caught myself. The fairness of guys getting their due or whatever, instead of giving it to, the actual best statistical player in the NBA. That's always going to be a topic of discussion. So, yeah, again, not huge basketball guys, but goddamn, you just need to just revel in LeBron James and his legacy.
Yeah, I'm going to read out his awards and accomplishments super quick, and then I guess I want to. Well, let's close on a brief overview of LeBron James, because I do have one other thing to talk about. 16-time All-Star. He was the 2019-2020 AST champ. No idea what that means. Yeah, 16-time All-NBA. He was the 03-04 All-Rookie, 3-time Finals MVP, 03-04 Rookie of the Year, 07-08 scoring champ, 3-time NBA champ, 6-time All-Defense, 3-time All-Star MVP, and 4-time League MVP. Damn.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid amount of stuff.
It's fucking stupid. People always give him shit like, 3-6 Mafia, because he's been to 9, only won 3 of them. You gotta remember, like, he's lost, I think, 2 or 3 times to Golden State, where they were the best dynasty that baseball's seen since the
basketball,
mid 90s Bulls,
Yeah.
And he's run into some crazy good teams over the years, and he's been on some crazy good teams over the years. And I hate that it these kind of discussions always come down to championships. Like, oh, Brady has 6 rings, that's the biggest thing. Or, Joe Montana won 4 or 5 rings. Michael Jordan won 6 rings. LeBron James only won 3. Are you kidding me? Fucking scrub. It's like, it's a team sport. It's a team sport. You can't, I hate when, it comes down to those kinds of arguments, because
I know. You and I once gave Skylar's dad shit because he was saying that rings mattered, and that was his reason why Brady was better than Manning, which, if you want to argue Brady being better than Manning, you can do so. The rings isn't a factor. And you and I were saying, does that make Tyrod Taylor a better quarterback than Dan Marino, since Dan Marino never won a Super Bowl ring and Tyrod Taylor has a Super Bowl ring? He was like, well,
Dan Marino is a fucking scrub.
Well, that's all the shit. Like, yeah, no, but that's the entire crux of your other argument. So if that's how you want to roll, you got to be consistent. But anyway, one of the other weirdest things about LeBron James, and then I guess we can move on unless you have anything else, is that he is so hated. I've never seen someone like people, myself included, hate Tom Brady. But like they put him up at the top of the list. I loathe Tom Brady. He's top 5 quarterback all time, depending on how you want to shake out the list. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I hate saying it even, but it's like it's. I'm going to say top 3. I'm going to leave it there, because you can't argue with it. There's no real. I mean, passion. Absolutely, I hate him with a passion, but I don't hate his stats. They're there. They're real. They're tangible. LeBron James, though, oh my God! Like, I was talking to some coworkers the other day, and because they were talking about the NBA Finals, and like, do you like basketball? And I was like, I watch basketball if it's on. And they were like, who you rooting for? I was like, oh, I don't care anyone but the Celtics, because fuck Boston. And my coworkers were like, anybody but LeBron James. I hate LeBron James. He's the worst.
Why?
And like, that's the thing. I don't want to get into it because this is a new job, and I'm not trying to ruffle feathers. But it always feels like people either love LeBron James or fucking despise LeBron James. And don't get me wrong, like, there's a lot more pageantry in basketball than there is in other sports. So, some people might say like, he whines too much. Yeah, but like everybody in the NBA whines because you get rewarded for it. The same thing you see in soccer. It's the same thing you're seeing a lot more of nowadays in the NFL with the very ticky-tacky DPI rules. Like, it's behavior that gets rewarded in sports, so therefore you see more of it. That is not unique to LeBron James. He's not as good as everyone says he is. No, he's better than everyone says he is. I mean, like, I don't get how you can even look at his career and not say that he is every bit as good, if not better, than everybody says he is. And now, look, does he have some relatively recent inconsistent views on the world? Maybe, but he seems like a great dude. Seems like a great dad. He started a school for underprivileged kids in his hometown, and he seems like he was a great friend to a lot of dudes who had come ups in the league. Like, he seems like a great guy. I get his view on China was kind of off-putting to some people, but at the same time, like, we are a full portrait of a human being. We are not just small brushstrokes. Like, he seems like a great dude. So I don't get it.
Yeah, I was not wanting to bring up the whole China aspect because, yeah, that's pretty fucking brutal, and it is a major stain in my mind on him and his legacy because that's a tough opinion to hold, especially in this day and age, and it does just come down to money and selling shoes. And it's a damn shame because you want him to be on the leading edge of this, and you want him and his platform and the voice that he has to stand up for what's right. And it's a shame, but hopefully LeBron James of all people can find his voice and speak up for injustices.
It is a really shitty part of the LeBron James legacy, and will only be mentioned, not only mentioned, but it'll be heavily mentioned because it's a thing that happened so late in his career, juxtaposed to a civil rights issue that then came up like immediately afterwards and was a pretty harsh contrast. But at the same time, again, I think if you take the larger scope of LeBron James, the guy, good guy, and gets a weird amount of hate.
He gets hate because he's not Michael Jordan. Guess what? No one else is in fact Michael Jordan. No one will ever be Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan,
how
guy.
DNA works.
Michael Jordan seems like a really shitty dude.
Oh yeah, degenerate gambler, and I don't want to say pathological liar about it, but he's not exactly the most honest dude in the world.
No, surrounded by sycophants.
Yeah, I mean, who isn't at this point?
You and me. We can't afford him.
Fuck you, Josh.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh God.
Well, LeBron James, if you're listening, we appreciate you. Please give us money.
Please. You have so much of it.
We are about mere poor folk. All right, so we touched on NHL, NBA. Is there anything to say with football before we move into a little bit of baseball, relatively statisticky discussion?
College football was on yesterday. I tried watching. I don't care. I do not care about college football this year, and it's a painful thing to claim. But at the same time, I could not get into it. I wanted to get into it. I did everything I can to get into it. I couldn't do it. And for that, I'm sorry.
Wow, that's a huge comment from Mr. Corwin Heller over here.
Yeah, man. Like, maybe it'll change when Penn State, starts playing. But as of now, it's not looking great.
Oof. All right. Well, then let's talk about some baseball. So we are today, as we are recording, this is the final day of the 2020 MLB regular season. We did it, Corwin. We did it.
Yeah. Fuck. We should do some break. I guess we should wait for after the playoffs for the bold predictions.
Yeah, we'll give it a little bit. Especially because there's still time, I guess. So, first off, I was convinced we would not see this day. I was convinced that the MLB would find a way of ruining a good thing, as they have a long, bountiful track record of doing. So, but we're here. So I figured we'd spend some time looking at, just kind of for fun, conversational topic, lighthearted, the 2020 Fangraphs odds that for teams that would make the playoffs versus how they actually did. Because I think there's more than a few actually interesting deviations from that. in what actually happened, and I figured it'd be fun to chit chat and talk about what happened with it. So
lead the way, sir. Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll start at the top of the Fangraphs page, which always starts off with America's favorite division, the AL East. They had the Yankees with a 48% chance of winning the division, a 91.4% chance of making the playoffs. The Rays, 33.3% chance of winning the division, 85.9% chance of making the playoffs. And then the third team from the AL East was the Red Sox, the 14% chance of winning the division, and a 64.7% chance of making the playoffs. And then I'll read the Orioles is basically all zero. The Blue Jays, 3.4% chance of winning the division, and then a 29.8% chance of making the playoffs. Now, the way this is actually shaking out, Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays will all make the playoffs. Red Sox, I mean, did they even come close in your mind? They're last in the division, 23 and 36.
Yeah, I was
16
going
games
to say,
back.
I don't know how anyone could view them as coming close.
And I understand this might have been pre some of the injuries, but at the same time, they had to update these projections so late into the so close to the beginning of the regular season due to all the shifts. I don't see how they would have. The other way this shook out is that the Yankees did not win the division. The Rays did, for which they only had a 34.3% chance, and the Yankees a 48% chance. So, Corwin, what do you think happened with the AL East here?
Everyone in the world got hurt. I'm not going to sit here and say in any capacity that this would have ended the way it did if it wasn't for the fact that the Yankees were fucking hurt the entire time. I definitely got to say, like, that's a big deal. And man, I just I don't know. I do think the Yankees should have performed better at the same time with the players they were playing with for most of the season. I don't want to discount the Rays for what they did because they played out of their minds and they were fantastic. But this was definitely an exception to expectations rather than what expectations should be moving forward.
Yeah, the Yankees played severely hurt. They, of course, were down a lot of pitching for a while. Tanaka didn't start the season on time. James Paxton was never right and then had to leave and is on the 60-day IL, and he probably has pitched his last game in pinstripes. And then everyone got hurt. Every single person. And this worked out fine for the Yankees last year because all the next men up performed out of their gourd. But this year it just didn't. So it's been a very odd. It feels like every Yankee game I watched this season, they either won 12-3 or lost 12-3, and it's like there's just been no middle ground with this Yankees team, which is just so odd to see. The Rays, to their credit, also played with a fuck ton of injuries. I think the way that their team is made up, which is a bunch of smaller role positions, but just with a crazy amount of depth, I think that led them to have a more sustainable type of team makeup for the injuries. But at the same time, oh my God, so many injuries. The real story here, because that's injury talk. The real story here is the Blue Jays, who had a 30% chance of making the playoffs, which is fair enough. And then we're pretty early on, seeming like a lock to do it, and then did. It's great to see their batting has stayed just about as good / progressed as you would have hoped coming off of last season, and their pitching has been good enough.
Good, yeah.
It really, I mean, they leapfrogged over the Red Sox pretty handily to make this postseason. It's pretty cool to see.
I mean, I have such high hopes for this team going forward with the depth of their prospects and everything like that. But man, it's exciting for the Rays.
Yeah. Do you have any actual hope for them in the postseason?
I do. I don't think they are going to be the favorites, obviously, but I do think that they are capable of of going pretty far.
All right. Well, we'll look at projected playoff matchups, and I guess at the end of it. So let's hop on down to the AL Central. Fangraphs gave the Twins a 47.4% chance of winning the division and an 87.2% chance of making the playoffs. The Indians, a 30% chance of winning the division and a 77% chance of making the playoffs. And the White Sox, an 18% chance of winning the division and a 64% chance of making the playoffs. And then, interestingly, they gave the Royals and the Tigers both over 10% chances of making the playoffs, which I find hysterical. They gave the Orioles a 1.4% chance of making the playoffs, which feels pretty fair. Like, Baltimore is not a great team. But Baltimore is going to finish either with the exact same record or 2 games above Detroit. And they gave Detroit a 12% chance of making the playoffs. I don't know where they got that number from, but that is fascinating. Anyway, what do you think the story is here with the AL Central? Oh, sorry, hold on. I didn't give the actual standings. My apologies. The actual standings. Sorry, Corwin.
I'll take it.
It appears as though the Twins will win the division again. There's a little bit of wiggle room here because we're doing this mildly prematurely. 36-23, the Twins are probably going to win the division, with the White Sox coming in second. Again, with a little bit of wiggle room between them and the Indians. So a lot could happen today in terms of the final shaking out of these standings. For instance, if the Twins lose and the White Sox win, I believe the White Sox will win the division, but regardless, these teams are all basically performed similarly / the same. Anyway, Corbin, go ahead.
Yeah, I can't say I watched a significant amount of this division at all this season. But yeah, I mean, the Twins are the Twins. I think they were the clear favorites going, through the entire season. I didn't exactly see them break the home run record this year. So what can I say? Well, I guess 60 games. That's not going to happen regardless. So there goes all of my points.
They'd have to hit in 60 games. They'd have to hit 7 home runs a game.
I don't see why that's not doable.
Well, I guess it didn't happen. So you see how.
It did not.
Yeah.
Who's your biggest surprise team for this?
Oh, I don't see how you don't pick the White Sox for this. I mean, I'd been punching them up for a while, but even then, I mean, they're so neck and neck with everybody else in the division. It might not seem as preposterous as their season was, but their season was preposterous. Their season was crazy good, especially when you look at what the ceiling of their performance was throughout the season, which is virtually unstoppable. I mean, my God, this team is ridiculous, especially compared to what they were thought to might have been. Fangraphs gave them an 18.5% chance of winning a wild card spot. This team that came out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm just glad you got a chance to talk about the White Sox because I know how much you fucking love them.
I love the White Sox, and my hat came in the mail. So
you got a hat?
Oh, I did get a hat. It's a really cool hat. I'll text you a picture of it later.
I'm still waiting for fucking Padres hats to get in stock. There's nothing.
The entirety of San Diego just discovered they had a baseball team this year, man. What do you expect?
I have literally checked the stock of San Diego caps every single day since the beginning of September, and there's been absolutely nothing in my size. Not once. It's driving me nuts.
This goes to show what type of bandwagon fan Corwin is, and that is late to the game.
Yeah, no kidding. It's almost as if we had an entire discussion about how late to the game I was.
I guess I'll just have to wait until the Padres World Series caps come out. Damn.
Oh,
so
boy.
tough.
That's Josh, you are speaking my language.
All right, let's get into a really wild division here. And I say that with no sarcasm because it sounded like I was being sarcastic. The AL West, the Astros were projected to win this division 62% chance of winning the division, 94% chance of making the playoffs. The Athletics were given a 22% chance of winning the division and a 75% chance of making the playoffs. And the Angels were given a 12% chance of winning the division, and a 57.6% chance of making the playoffs. And I will also give the Rangers brief mention for their 36% chance of making the playoffs. The way this shook out, the Oakland Athletics are winning the division handily. 35 games in the win column, 24 in the loss. The next highest team is Houston. 6 games back. Houston will either finish this season with a 500 record or lower, and the Angels are going to finish this season 7 games under 500, which in a 60-game season is so many games. And then the Rangers are going to finish this season at least 16, if not 19 games back under 500. A ludicrously bad season. Oh my God, like ridiculous. So in terms of Fangraphs projections, they were very off when it came to Houston. Houston will make the playoffs because the second place team in each division automatically makes the playoffs, which is dumb for this reason. So they're technically correct in the make the playoff part, but we're super far off in terms of division winners. And then their make the playoffs for Angels and Rangers seems so dumb. But anyway, Corwin, what do you think?
Can we just appreciate that how if these weren't extended playoffs this year, the Astros would have missed the playoffs?
Yeah,
that
I know.
Is fucking hilarious.
That's what I'm saying. It's crazy.
I mean, yeah, like the Angels choke job is funny. The idea that they were just that bad when they had all rights to, this was their year to contend. It's funny. It's sad for Mike Trout, but at the end of the day, it's still funny. It's a shame because, of course, we all want Mike Trout to do well. But good on the Athletics for doing their thing and playing as well as they did. Matt Chapman. I don't know what else you want me to say. Matt Chapman.
Is hurt.
Yeah. How about those Mariners, though? Mariners.
Yeah, they were projected to finish last and instead finish third. That's a winning season for them.
Right. The meme of the SpongeBob meme where like Squidward's in like his house looking down on like SpongeBob Patrick like frolicking in the grass or the sand. The picture of the White Sox and Padres overlapping SpongeBob and Patrick and the Mariners over Squidward made me fucking spit out my drink when I first saw it. That was one of the best I've seen in a good while. I love that.
Yeah, they are the most unproductively bad team in sports, and coming from a Jets fan, that's saying something. Anyway, yeah, I don't get, and I don't understand how they make these projections in the first place. So I truly don't get why the Angels and Rangers are here, because neither of those teams are good. And the Angels are tough because, like, yeah, they have Mike Trout, and yeah, they just signed Anthony Rendon, and that's well and good. It's a team devoid of pitching. And the Rangers had a weirdly relatively successful season last season that was buoyed by surprisingly better pitching, but they couldn't hit for shit. And I wouldn't have put any stock into that pitching maintaining, only because it was seemingly so random outside of Lance Lynn, which again, why? But yeah, this did not shake up in almost any way that the Fangraphs odds had it, which is just fascinating. So I guess let's go over to the National League, talking about the NL East. This is also going to be an interesting division to talk about. Fangraphs had the Nationals at a 33% chance of winning the division and a 77% chance of making the playoffs. The Braves a 28% chance of winning the division, 72% chance of making the playoffs. Mets 25% chance of winning the division, 68% chance of making the playoffs, and then the Phillies with a 12.5% chance of winning the division and a just about 50% chance of making the playoffs. The way this has actually shaken out so far, Atlanta will win the division. Miami, the Marlins, will finish second and have punched their playoff ticket. The Marlins had a 9.2% chance of making the playoffs in the Fangraphs model and are going. Fangraphs has also given them a 0% chance of winning the World Series. That's certainly higher at this point, only because now they're actually in the playoffs. The Phillies are technically, this is where it gets a little bit funky. The Phillies are not currently in, but also not currently out. There are 3 teams whose playoff future hinges upon today's games. So they are as 50-50 as you could possibly get, which is exactly where Fangraphs had them. So it seems very apt. And then the Mets are 9 games back from the division, and the Nationals are 10 games back from the division. Neither of those 2 teams making the playoffs. 2 teams that the Fangraphs projections had pretty high in terms of their likelihood to do so. So, Corwin, what do you think about the NL East?
I just I don't know what is the most surprising, that the Nationals would go from first to worst, that the Marlins would go from it would be unthinkable that they are able to make the playoffs to actually doing it, or that Fangraphs genuinely thought the Mets had a nearly 70% chance of making the playoffs. I just don't get it. I don't know. I'd love to see that the Marlins got in. That's so exciting for Derek Jeter and all his girlfriends. I can't help but feel for the Mets, because God, that must just be the worst feeling ever. Just like having to root for the Mets. Probably, I say this, exactly what that's like, so I don't want to rub it in too much, but
Oh, rub it in.
okay. That must suck. That must be depressing.
No, I gotta say it's worse for the Mets because, like, the past 3 seasons for the Jets, I've gone into the season saying this team will likely be bad, but let's hope we're productive. And then they're just worse than I thought, which is obviously frustrating because they're worse than I thought. But I also didn't think we were gonna go to the playoffs. So I might put that in my bold predictions every year to give myself a modicum of hope and something to root for. But I don't actually think that. The Mets, on the other hand,
can do it. The Jets can do it.
I wish. The Mets, on the other hand, they, in theory, should be going to the playoffs. They have great pitching. They have some really good hitters, and some decent bullpen pieces here and there. And yet, those 3 things will never align for that team, and it is fucking perplexing. The Nationals going first to worst. The fact it's worst, I'd say, is surprising. The fact that they're missing the playoffs, I don't think really is. They were a bad team at the start of last season, and with not enough games for them to do the full turnaround that they did last season, you go, okay, yeah. They were 19-31 to start the first 50 games of last season. They were 19-31 to start the first 50 games of this season. The Yankees are also notorious for starting slow. The Dodgers are notorious for starting hot. There's some teams where that's just kind of how they're built, which over 162 games is fine. They'll all regulate. We don't really get that chance. Plus, they lost Strasburg this year to injury, not to anything else. And then they lost Rendon to free agency, and it could happen. The Braves not being higher on this list for making the playoffs and winning the division, being below the Nationals, I think is super weird. I think that's giving way too much credence to the Nationals for simply winning the World Series. And I say simply only because it was a surprise when it happened. It's not like they were not favored, and I don't think a single one of their series. So just because they won doesn't mean that they were the obvious choice to do so. And then the Phillies feel so appropriate for right where they are.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
So I guess we'll see what happens with that. By the time this episode gets released, you will obviously know what happens with the Phillies. We do not. That makes this more fun. Corwin, are you ready for the NL Central?
Yes, sir.
I don't think you are. All right, this is a tight division. for 4 out of 5 teams. The Cubs had a 30% chance of winning the division, a 71% chance of making the playoffs. The Brewers had a 25% chance of winning the division and a 66% chance of making the playoffs. The Reds, a 24% chance of winning the division, a 65% chance of making the playoffs. The Cardinals, a 19% chance of winning the division, a 58% chance of making the playoffs. And they gave the Pirates a 14% chance of making the playoffs, which is fucking nuts to me. Anyway, the way this actually has shaken out so far, again, there are caveats here because these are the other two. Actually, I guess there's 4 teams now that I'm looking at the standings. Anyway, let me get into it. The Cubs are going to win the division they're up 3 games with 1 game left to play. The Cardinals and the Reds are both currently tied for second. But because the Cardinals missed so many games earlier in the season, and they just have not gotten the chance to make, I guess, one of them up. So right now, the Cardinals are sitting at 29-28, and the Reds are sitting at 30-29. And I guess that extra boost in win percent from having that extra game is, at least that's what I'm assuming is the reason the Reds are technically clinched, whereas the Cardinals are not. Has allowed them to just be in a position to actually go to the postseason, whereas the Cardinals aren't. That's that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the Brewers are also sitting here at 29-30. So in theory, if the Cardinals lose their game today and the Brewers win their game today, both teams will have a 500 record, and I don't know what that means. So I guess we'll find out. Anyway, and then the Pirates finished 14 games back from the division. I don't know why this is a surprise to anybody. They finished with the worst record in baseball. Corwin, what do you think of this division?
I don't know why you gave me hope that you were just going to forget about the Pirates for a minute and just let that sleeping dog lie.
No.
You know what? At the end of the day, like I don't know why any of this is surprising. I mean, the Reds and the Cardinals being at 500. Yeah, okay, I'm surprised the Reds are there. I'm not surprised the Cardinals finished there. I'm not surprised the Brewers have basically played themselves to a win and you're in situation. I honestly am kind of surprised the Cubs have performed and are still at the top. I kind of thought they were ready for a step back, but you know what? They're the Cubs. I think that's more on me for not really knowing why I would doubt them rather than the other way around. But yeah, I mean, this is probably the least surprising outcome of all the divisions we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I agree with everything. I'm just so here. Let me make it easier. The way I would have thought this division would have shaken out is Brewers taking a slight step forward and locking in the division. The Cubs and Cardinals both taking something of a step back and, either making or not making the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised by either team. And then the Reds being, yeah, I think you said it right. 500 sounds right. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe a little bit higher. They'd be somewhere around there. So the fact that any of these things are the way they are isn't surprising. It is weird to me that the Brewers are likely not to be in. They're the least likely to be in right now.
Who do they play today? Do you know?
Oh, man,
I could look it up.
I've never known anything.
None of
They're
us
playing
know
the Cardinals. They're playing the Cardinals.
Okay, so the Brewers are making the playoffs. Yeah.
So I think you're right. I think this is a win you're in situation.
God, the fact that they wouldn't try to adjust their rotation at all, where they have, was it Brett Anderson starting the game in a win and you're in situation. But hey, you know what? I'm not an MLB manager, so I don't know these things.
Oh,
whatever,
yeah.
man. Whatever.
I have got nothing to say.
Yeah, I don't either.
All right, let's jump on down to the NL West. So as as Fangraphs had it, the Dodgers had a 70% chance of winning the playoffs, a 95% chance of making the playoffs. Is that 70% chance of winning the division, 95% chance of making the playoffs, which is the highest that was given out. The Padres had a 17.6% chance of winning the division and a 68% chance of making the playoffs. The Diamondbacks had a sub 10% chance for the division and a 47% chance of making the playoffs. And then the Rockies had a sub 5% chance of the division and a 29% chance of making the playoffs. What do you think about the way this division has? Oh, wait, damn it, Josh. I didn't read out the actual standings again. So the Dodgers are going to the playoffs. This one makes sense. The Padres also going to the playoffs, standing so far, reflecting this accurately. The Giants, whom I didn't even read because they were given a bottom of the standings finish, a 12% chance of making the playoffs, are the fourth and final team that might end up making the playoffs depending on the result of today's game, sitting at 29-30. And then the Rockies and I keep wanting to say Cardinals, Diamondbacks are both over 15 games out from the division and will not make the playoffs. So anyway, Corwin, what do you think of the NL West?
You know what? The Giants doing as well as they did this year is probably the biggest surprise for me. I thought they were going to be one of the few dog shit teams in the MLB this year because, I didn't exactly have a lot of hope. Mike Yastrzemski coming out and breaking out the way he did. I guess continuing the breakout. He had a pretty damn good year last year as well. Is awesome to see. You got to having a all-star caliber Yastrzemski in baseball is good for baseball. The Rockies and the Diamondbacks, I'm not surprised at all. I mean, that's exactly what I expected out of both of them. The Dodgers are exactly what I expected out of them too, but on the opposite side of that coin, I mean, they played up to expectations and in a season that was going to be guaranteed to be as wacky as it ended up being. I don't think we should discredit their ability to win, over 70% of their games. They won 42 games this year. That's incredible. It easily could have, one mistake, one issue, one slump could easily have snowballed into, a difficult season for the Dodgers, but they are just so deep while also being so talented at the top that it was going to be real tough for them to not perform, and they lived up to it. And you know what? The Padres, man. You know what? I'm so unbelievably happy that I rolled with this team this year and was able to experience this kind of a season where it's such a young, exciting team finally, pulling it all together. Like, sure, you could call me a bandwagon fan. I'm never going to argue that point with you. We literally debated me getting rid of my, I don't want to say lifelong, but, my quote unquote favorite team to find someone new. Obviously, it's going to be a bandwagon. That's how it works. But I'm so in love with this team, and I really hope they do great things in the playoffs, and I fully expect them to. But what a fun outcome for San Diego.
Yeah, I know. Fucking ridiculous.
Like, I thought they'd have like a good season, maybe, have a 550, 575 win percentage. That would be a great year. 6-10, 36-23 is unreal. That's amazing.
I know, man. I know. In terms of discussing the percentages versus the actuality, nothing crazy here. Like Dodgers making the playoffs was a lock. The fact that they predicted the Padres being this great is super cool to see, especially because they were right. And then the Giants are a surprise, but you could have told me any of the final three teams were like a weird long shot. Hey, they made the playoffs, and I would go, oh, okay, because that's kind of like baseball. So anyway, let's before we get into the current playoff matchups, I found an article explaining what's happening today, which is of course going to be dated by the time this episode comes out, but I'm still fascinated in this. So the Cardinals, if need be, can make up 1 or 2 games of a doubleheader against Detroit on Monday if the games affect who makes the postseason. So this could actually end up being further subject to change come end of day today. So there's a number of scenarios. If the Cardinals and Giants win their games, they are both in. Two-way ties. A two-way tie for the final spot could occur if the Brewers defeat the Cardinals, if the Giants lose, and the Phillies win. This would result in the Brewers and Cardinals heading to the postseason without St. Louis having to play additional games. The Cardinals own a tiebreaker over the Giants and a better divisional record over their past 20 games than the Phillies. And another two-way tie might happen if the Cardinals defeat the Brewers and the Giants and the Phillies both lose. This will result in a playoff berth for the Cardinals and the Brewers because Milwaukee owns a better intra-divisional record than San Francisco. And then there's a three-way tie. Should the Cardinals beat the Brewers, the Giants lose, and the Phillies win, that would give the 7 seed to the Cardinals, and a three-way tie for the 8 seed because the Giants, Phillies, and Brewers don't have head-to-head records. Their postseason futures would be decided by the superior intra-division record, which belongs to the Phillies. This is the Phillies' only way into the postseason. Anyway, their actual odds of getting in, according to the score, is 96% chance for the Cardinals, 67% chance for the Brewers, 23% chance for the Giants, and a 13% chance for the Phillies. So, anyway, that's that. Figure that would just be a little bit of fun mental exercise for us. The current matchups.
I just want to say, are mental exercises usually fun for you? Because they're usually a lot of work for me, and I don't know. I'm confused still. As always,
they are usually fun for me, but yeah, Anyway, so I guess we'll start with the American League. As it stands right now, we have the 1 seed Tampa Bay Rays against the 8 seed Toronto Blue Jays. First thoughts? We'll just move through these quickly, I guess.
I missed what you were saying. I was still trying to think of exercises mentally.
Rays, number 1 seed Rays against the 8 seed Blue Jays.
I'm picking the Rays all the way. I mean, yeah, the Blue Jays are still that up-and-coming team. Just, if it's a full series, I don't see how the Blue Jays could pull that off.
Yeah, I don't either. Oh, no! The next matchup would be the 5 seed Yankees against the 4 seed White Sox.
Ooh.
How a terrible day for Josh.
How healthy do you expect the Yankees to be? In all honesty.
95%. Oh. Everybody but Luke Voigt.
Okay. Then I would have a lot of hope in the Yankees pulling that off. I was going to say if they're still going in hurt, the White Sox are hot. I could definitely see. Well, actually, I don't know if Luis Robert ever warmed back up after that. Long cold streak. But yeah, I got to give this one to the Yankees. Too deep.
It is really tough to say. I would hate to be an actual pundit who actually had to pick this, but anyway. The 3 seed A's against the 6 seed Astros.
A's 100%.
Not even close, right?
Yeah, no.
The 2 seed Twins against the 7 seed Indians.
I'm going to go with the Indians here. They're hot right now. Jose Ramirez is that offense, but at the same time, their pitching staff is so dominant. I could see all of them, all of these games being incredibly low scoring. I know the Twins offense is what it is. I just don't think, their pitching can live up to the task. And, that's what the postseason's about.
Navigate away from the page. Sorry. Yeah, I don't. These two teams are separated by a lot of numbers in terms of 2 and 7, but they are separated by shockingly little in the standings. Like this is a tight matchup right here. I have no confidence in either team's ability to pull away with anything. If I had to give somewhere, I think I would give the Indians as well, just because I think they're almost locked in for a win with the Shane Bieber start, which means they only need to win one other game in a 3-game series, and I think they can. So anyway. All right, so that's it for the AL. And again, subject to some changes here in terms of seedings and standings on both sides. But I guess let's really quickly just see what the NL looks like, because despite again some seeding and standing changes, I don't think there's going to be too much difference here between now and 10 hours from now. Dodgers in the 1 seed, Brewers in the 8. Who do you take?
Dodgers.
Not even worth talking about. Padres in the 4 seed against the Cardinals in the 5 seed.
I don't think this would end up being a close matchup. I'm going Padres. That being said, our pitching did take a hit. Clevenger's hurt. Lamet is hurt. Paddock is not the Paddock of old. I might think that might be a close series if none of those guys are healthy.
I would still take the Padres in a heartbeat.
I would too.
3 seed Cubs against the 6 seed Marlins.
Give me the Marlins.
Yeah, so this is a really weird matchup. This, I think, is the first or second most interesting matchup in the National League, because the Cubs have a lot of clout around the name. It's the Cubs. They have a very recent history of being a good team. They won the World Series like 4 years ago, and have been dancing around contention to a serious degree, or to somewhat of a serious degree since then. And well, hey, look at that, winning the division this year. And the Marlins are like weird and snuck into the postseason and weren't supposed to be any good, and suddenly kind of are. So it might seem like this would be a cakewalk for the Cubs, but the Cubs are a really up and down team. Like, their pitching is either entirely there or absent. Their bats have been weirdly quiet. This is like the worst season of Javi Baez's entire career. This is a weird season for the Cubs. And honestly, catching on to a hot Marlins team, I mean, I'd personally love to see the Marlins, because I am, as we all know, a fan of Team Chaos and want to see the Marlins just be weird and continue their stretch of never losing a postseason series for at least a little while. But we'll fucking see. Anyway.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I wouldn't put money on the Marlins, but boy, I'm going to be rooting for them hard.
Same here. We should take hat bets at some point. I think that'd be a fun little bet for us. Not for all the games, but like some games.
Yeah, I'm down.
Anyway, that brings us to what might be 1A or 1B, depending on who you are, for what I would think would be the most interesting series in the National League. The number 2 Braves against the number 7 Reds. Who you got?
Man, this is tough, just because I think if Trevor Bauer's locked in, that is going to be a tough matchup to win. But again, it really just comes down to, can the Reds offense produce anything? Which is a fairly good question. But I think I'd have to give the series to the Braves. Yeah, God, it's so hard because the Reds pitching is so unbelievably good, and their offense is just not. And I can't. Like, it's the postseason. I fully expect, Luis Castillo, Sonny Gray, Trevor Bauer, if it goes to 3 games, all of these guys to pitch dominant games. I don't know if they're going to score any runs, so it's tough. You know what? Fuck it. I'll give it to the Reds. Why not?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Marlins.
I want to pick the Braves. Like, I want to pick them with like, my gut reaction is to pick them. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. For a lot of the same reasons I just talked about the Cubs, but at the same time, like, really looking at the teams, I mean, it's not. I don't think the Braves are a huge amount better than the Reds, like, anywhere. Their hitting at the top end is so much better. Actually, you know what? That is the big difference. The Braves as a team, 117 OPS plus. The Reds as a team, 88. Oh wow, this is a sad stat. You ready for this?
Yeah.
Team total OPS plus for the Reds, 88. Non-pitcher total OPS plus for the team. 87.
No.
It's worse. How is it worse?
Why is their pitcher hitting? There's a DL now.
A DH. Because one.
DL. God, I'm stupid.
Yeah, that's actually a great question. There is one single plate appearance from a pitcher, and he scored a run because he got hit by a pitch. Wow, that's funny. Anyway, so it comes down to I think all postseason series come down ultimately to either pitching or home runs, and this is really that. This is that series incarnate because on the pitching end, you got Trevor Bauer, 1.73 ERA, Luis Castillo, 3.21 ERA, and Sonny Gray, 3.73 ERA. Those are three very good pitchers. And I know ERA is not the end-all be-all, but I'm trying to keep this brief. And then you look at the Braves, and they have Max Fried and his 2.25 ERA, phenomenal. Kyle Wright and his 5.21 ERA. And then Ian Anderson and his 1.95 ERA, which is phenomenal in 32 innings pitched. And I'm going to be honest, I do not have full confidence that I know who he is.
Prospect that got called up, fairly recently.
22. Wow, he is 22. That's crazy. Anyway, and I would give the leverage in that spot over to the Reds, but like you said, the Braves hitting is so good, and the Reds hitting is wildly confusing. So, I don't know.
I want to see what the Reds lineup looks like, just to see if I have confidence in any one of them of being able to produce offense this year.
As it stands right now, I'll say player, position, name, and OPS plus in that order. Catching, Tucker Barnhart, 75. First base, Joey Votto, 109. Second base, Mike Moustakas, 111. Shortstop, Freddie Galvis, 85. Third base, Eugenio Suarez, 101. Left fielder, Shogo Akiyama, 78. Center field, Nick Senzel, 61. Right field, Nicholas Castellanos, 105. And DHing Jesse Winker, 141.
Jesse Winker, that's probably the only one I have actual confidence in performing consistently.
The disrespect to Joey Votto here.
Listen, Joey Votto's like 65 years old.
He is 36.
Love Joey Votto. He's not hitting any homers in this postseason. I don't know, maybe. Not likely.
Joey Votto, third most home runs on the team.
Yeah. Does he?
Oh, wait, sorry.
How many home runs does he have?
Hold on. Sorry, I was looking at doubles. Joey Votto, fourth most home runs on the team. He's 11.
Wow. Okay. 11 is more than I thought he'd have.
Eugenio Suarez has 15. Nick Castellanos with 14. Jesse Winker with 12. And that's everyone. Shogo Akiyama, I have no idea who this is. He has 181 plate appearances this year. How many home runs do you think he has?
1.
0.
Yeah.
Wow.
Aristides Aquino, not playing well. I was looking him up because I know who he is and expected him to be hitting home runs. 44 at-bats, 182 average, 2 home runs, 662 OPS.
Not good.
250 at-bats last year, hitting 244 with 21 home runs and an 847 OPS.
Yeah, he came out so hot last year. It was so exciting, and
I was so hopeful for him this year.
Oh, that's what everyone said about Rhys Hoskins, and we saw how that turned out.
Yeah, very true.
He is fine.
Fine. Yep, that's exactly how I would describe Rhys Hoskins at this point in his career. He's fine.
Yeah. All right, I have one last thing I want to talk about, and then we can wrap it up. Does that work for you?
Okay. Is it still on baseball?
Yes.
Okay.
So, do you know who Tyler Wade is on the Yankees?
Yes. Not
yeah,
good.
Right. Good start. He's the Yankees' backup shortstop. He's been playing a lot this season just because we've had a lot of infield injuries. Gleyber Torres missed a decent chunk of the season. Blah 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 blah. Tyler Wade is going to finish the season with more WAR than Gleyber Torres.
What?
So as it stands,
How many games has Gleyber played in?
so I'm going to get there. But as it stands right now, Tyler Wade has, and again, there's one game left, but I don't think this is going to change significantly anyway. Tyler Wade 0.5 WAR, Gleyber negative 0.2 WAR, a difference of 0.7. Their individual lines, Gleyber Torres played in 41 games, 156 plate appearances, and his slash line 271, 341, 494, good for an 835 OPS and a that's his career line, Josh, you idiot. 242, 359, 371, good for a 730 OPS and a 104 OPS plus. Tyler Wade this season, 51 games, 102 plate appearances, and a slash line of 176, 291, 318, a 615 OPS, and a 71 OPS plus.
Oh my God.
So Tyler Wade, not fucking good at hitting. So if you are unfamiliar with baseball, you might say, well, why is there such a difference between their WAR, which is, again, the catch-all stat that is supposed to capture a complete player's performance? Well, let's look at OWAR versus DWAR. So Tyler Wade this season provided 0.7 OWAR and 0.5 DWAR. Now, there's obviously he lost 0.2 somewhere in there to bring him to his current season total of 0.5 because otherwise this makes no sense. Gleyber Torres, 0.7 OWAR, literally over triple, 3.5 times Tyler Wade's, but negative 0.7 DWAR. And this begs a question that I think we've often talked about, and now it seems like we have a pretty good example. Corwin, do you give a shit about defense? Who do you take?
I mean, obviously, you care about defense, but I feel like in a vacuum, it's really hard to not go with offense because it has such a direct impact on runs and on scoring. Whereas, you may not be the best defender, but at the same time, one guy on base for a single because you bobble a ball or, it passes through your glove, whatever it may be. That's not always the end of the world. Whereas, having such a terrible offensive, stat line like Tyler Wade does versus what Gleyber can, to Yankees, I think that outweighs the defense, obviously, and I think most Yankees fans will agree. It's just, God, I wish I didn't have the names attached because I feel like I'd give a much more unbiased answer because I've seen Gleyber Torres play baseball, and he's fantastic. I've seen Tyler Wade play baseball, and it's nearly unwatchable. But it's hard because it is the shortstop position where defense is such a key aspect to it. I don't think I could give you a definitive answer regardless. I think there's just too much context and too much, it comes down to, each individual decision or comparison and things like that. But, Matt Chapman's one of my favorite players. Obviously defense is spectacular. Offense, Matt Chapman's no slouch on offense. He's fantastic, but he's known for his defense. That's always great to see, but if I had to pick, I guess, gun to my head, I'd pick offense because it produces runs.
Yeah, and the thing is, I certainly understand the importance of defense because if you have bad defense, your games last longer than you want them to, and you might ultimately lead you to losing games you should have won, or really just putting stress on your pitchers that otherwise wouldn't have been there, and all of that has a very tied together effect. On the other hand, hitting home runs is so much better. And people, viewers, and I think in my mind, I have no proof, in front offices, you look at a guy with bad defense and a great bat and you go, man, that defense is bad, but you got to keep playing him because that bat's ridiculous. Whereas you look at a guy with good defense and a bad bat, and you go, I need him to get the fuck away from me. Or really, but you look at him and go, that is a defensive replacement in the 8th inning when we're winning.
Yeah.
Because the thing about good bats, bad gloves is that the only reason you see them a lot is because teams are willing to put the bad glove on the field.
Yeah. I mean, with how common the shift is, you can make up for that bad defense to a degree.
Yeah, and just in general,
you can't produce runs. You can't artificially inflate runs. You can't.
No, there is no true shifting to account. So, like, to illustrate my point, Tyler Wade has 102 plate appearances this season. That is the second most of his career. His 51 games is the highest. So in 2019, 43 games, 108 plate appearances. It was brutal. He somehow scraped together 0.3 OWAR, and I find that hard to believe. 2018, 36 games, 70 plate appearances, 0.2 OWAR. Sorry, negative 0.2 OWAR. And in 2017, 30 games, 63 plate appearances, negative 0.4 OWAR. That all combines for a 0 OWAR over the course of 4 seasons. Gleyber Torres' OWAR by season, 2018, 123 games, 484 plate appearances, 3.2 OWAR. 2019, 144 games, 604 plate appearances, 4.2 OWAR. And then this season, 41 games, 156 plate appearances, 0.7 OWAR. Not his best season. But the point being that accumulation matters a whole lot. If you look at his DWAR, it's 0.9, positive 0.9, I should say, and then negative 0.5, negative 0.7. The only reason that negative DWAR is allowed to accumulate is because the OWAR it accumulates right beside it accumulates at such a higher pace and rate than the DWAR does. And honestly, even if it didn't, it doesn't matter that much. At the end of the day, defense matters to an extent, and that extent is either buoyed or sunken by your bat.
Absolutely.
And to take a long-term view on it, like, no one is going to say the Yankees should start benching Gleyber Torres for Tyler Wade. Like, because that's just ridiculously stupid. I mean, that's unfathomably stupid because of, again, how much less defense matters and how much more offense matters. But furthermore, it's dumb because long term, I would almost expect everybody to get worse at defense because that involves moving around, whereas hitting doesn't involve nearly as much moving around.
Unless you're Mike Trout, then you just get better at defense with age, like a fine wine.
Or you could be like Nelson Cruz and just hit home runs, so you don't have to keep jogging out those doubles.
So true.
So to take a long-term perspective on it, the bat matters even more in the long term than defense ever will. And not even if you're not predicting, I should say, a decline in anything. It's so much easier to find a defensive replacement and then move an offense-first player off of his previously defense-laden spot to someplace less defense-laden, or in the American League to the DH, to eventually have a different player fill in the gap at shortstop or wherever it is you're looking to fill it in. You can't do that with good defense. You're never gonna pass up a chance to have someone phenomenal on offense take a spot away from somebody who's phenomenal on defense because we really can't live without his defense. That's stupid.
Yeah, you're not benching like Mike Trout for Billy Hamilton or Jackie Bradley Jr. It's just not going to happen.
Right, exactly.
Mike Trout is a bad choice
because he's so good at everything.
Yeah, because he's Mike Trout.
But Adam Engel, or like you said, Jackie Bradley Jr. You're not going to bench Aaron Judge for Jackie Bradley Jr. at the beginning of the game. You might want to do that at the end of the game because Jackie Bradley Jr.'s defense is so fucking good, but his bat's terrible. But you wouldn't do it at the beginning of a game when you need runs. And again, that's tough because Aaron Judge is also a very good defender. Who's a bad defender in the outfield?
I don't know. I was trying to think of like someone specific, and I couldn't really pull
JD
anyone off.
Martinez.
Yeah, but he doesn't play center field though. You know.
He plays right usually.
Right, but I was specifically thinking center field because it is an actual defensive focus position.
That is
Right
true.
Right field is where you put the rejects. You know.
No, left field is where you put the rejects.
Oh, right. Right field is where you put the guys with a cannon.
Yeah. Well, they might not get to it quick enough, but oh boy, they can send it. Anyway, because you look down the road. Again, with the Yankees, it's a little bit complicated because you got DJ LeMahieu and there's a whole big infield shuffling going on. But you can find, if you really need to, you'll find a spot for a good bat. No team is trying to cram as many super awesome defenders that are also shit batters in a lineup.
No.
Anyway, that's the tangent I wanted to go on, and I have nothing outside of that.
It's the way it is.
Do you got anything, or shall we wrap up for today?
Not on baseball. Julio Jones is inactive today, so those of you who will be listening to this after they play their game, make note of that.
Yeah, for some post fantasy game tips. Make sure you benched Julio Jones yesterday.
I feel like I did have something for football. I don't remember what it is anymore, so shit out of luck.
Apparently, a reporter for the Jets, or I guess on the Jets, and I don't know who he is. It doesn't matter. Just said on ESPN that Jets management is considering moving on from Adam Gase as they have finally been exposed to some of the noise coming from outside of the organization.
You mean, is that like quote? They said noise?
That's at least what the tweet says, but I would imagine that's basically the idea here.
I mean, if that's what you want to call people screaming at you for, hiring that guy, sure. Yeah, noise is a word I would use. It's not the first word I would use, but it's a word.
It's astonishing that now they're getting there when people have been screaming about this hire since it happened a year and a half ago. But either way, yeah. So I just saw another one that said, keep an eye on the status of Adam Gase this week. So this might be a win or lose your job kind of position for Adam Gase this Sunday, which I now
make any sense.
hope the Jets lose.
Sorry, I heard you say that and just if this is a win and you're in type situation for Adam Gase, what the fuck have the last 20 weeks been? If this game is what your job hinges on, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, we'll let you go 1-7 to start off the sophomore year of hopefully franchise quarterback. But if you lose week 3 to the Colts, ooh boy, you're out. I don't get it either. It's fucking stupid. But if this is what it takes to get this fucking crazy-eyed, coked-up son of a bitch away from the team, whatever, man. I'm all aboard. So
fucking Jets, man.
I know. So I guess hopefully when we convene to record next Wednesday for the Thursday episode, we have some good news to talk about. But I guess we'll see.
Oh man, that'll be like fucking Christmas if it ends up being like that. If we get to come on and record and talk about how the Jets have moved on from Adam Gase, it'll be Christmas.
Especially now would be such a good time to give a few weeks to evaluate Darnold to see if we can revisit that trade conversation, because if you get a few weeks of non-Adam Gase production and Darnold looks really good, then maybe you think about hanging on and taking whatever pick you get to try to build around him. And if he doesn't look that great, well, maybe you and I'm just saying, trade him at his absolute nadir in value, but still you might be a little bit more willing to look into that trade. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's fire Gase first.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, if you want to follow the show on Twitter, you can do so at JuicingPod. If you want to hit us up via email, you can do so at juicethenumbers@gmail.com. And until Thursday, y'all have a good one.
Bye.